Food and Wine Insider is a weekly look at a $1.5 trillion industry touching every American. Devoted to the business of purveying food and decanting wines, Food and Wine Radio is a unique program highlighting not food recipes or wine vintages, but how to make a profit while satisfying America's palates. Visit us at foodandwineinsider.com.
And I never met someone so articulate about understanding what goes into natural products, from growing, buying, regulating points of view, than Bena Burda. Originally the head of a food company, her firm is now an exciting clothing company that when I met her, I said we simply had to have her on the program. Bena, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Don. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Bena, I'm going to start by asking you to tell us a little bit of your story, which began as a food company and morphed, and then from there, Ann will take.
So yes, I was running around the country in the early 1990s, working with organic farmers who were growing a variety of food products. And I got hooked on organic farming the first time I stepped into an organic farm field in my home state of Michigan. It was a bean field, and the guy had like 50 acres. And the first thing that happened was my shoes sunk into the tops of my shoes. The organic feel on a farm is just energizing. There's a rush of energy that you get when you walk through an organic field. And he started telling me about working with nature and not against nature, and I was just hooked. So I, amongst other things, started selling organic corn chips, tortilla chips, which were remarkable to me and my partner because, people eat salty chips and they want more. And so we were able to convert more and more acres to organic farming. But then we launched Blue Chips, and back in the early 90s, it was hard to sell blue food. If you went to a really hip Super Bowl party, maybe they served you blue chips and everyone pointed at them and laughed and said, "Ooh, they're blue." So they were taken off, and we started having a problem with the corn actually fading. When we first harvested it out of the field, it was this beautiful, dark, rich, gorgeous blue color. But as we stored the grain in grain bins to make our tortilla chips, it got lighter and lighter and lighter. It was actually fading. So it was even harder to sell gray food than blue food. So, of course, I went to the farmer that year. He was in the high plains of West Texas, and said, is there something you can do in the field that will help your corn keep its color, because this is a marketing problem we're having? And he got a little gleam in his eye and said, I can fix your problem. I know exactly what to do. And I said, okay. And I checked it off my list and went to the next problem. And what I didn't know was that Jim decided to plant cotton into his crop rotation. So organic farmers, don't grow the same crop in the same field each year. They rotate their crops because each crop likes different nutrients, takes different things out of the field, and it works better. Their yields are better. So it's part of working with nature. So he planted 200 acres of cotton. And in the spring, he called me and said, my cotton's growing. And I said, well, great. Maybe we'll have a better corn crop next year. And then he called me about a month later and said, this cotton's growing so well that I'm going to actually have a harvest out of it. And I said, well, good for you. And he said, well, you're going to sell it for me. And I said, well, Jim, I sell food. And he kept saying, but Bena, it's organic, but Bena, it's organic. And I kept saying, yeah, but you still can't eat it. And then I started researching organic or cotton. And, my generation was the generation of blue jeans. We grew up on cotton. Everybody thought cotton was the fabric of our lives. And lo and behold, I researched cotton and I find out it's grown it's the second most pesticide-laden crop in the world. Coffee's number one, cotton's number two, and tobacco's number three. And I had no clue. And if you take all the world's cultivated land, cotton's grown on maybe 3 or 4 or 5% of that land, but it uses 10% of the Earth's pesticides every year and 23 to 25% of the Earth's insecticides every year. So, boom, here was a next product we could do. It's let's buy all the cotton we can scoop up, get every organic farmer we know to grow cotton if they can, work it into their rotation, and we're going to start selling clothes. Well, of course, little did I know that when I thought you took this harvested cotton out of the ground and just went to some T-shirt company and said, here, make me some T-shirts. Well, there's 6 to 8 steps, and it takes 6 to 8 weeks just to take raw cotton from the field and make it into a finished product. So we were in way over our heads. We started making socks because socks were a little bit easier, and we could sell them to all our food retailers that we knew, natural food retailers, because they didn't need a fitting room. And that's how we started.
You know, what I love about your story, Bena, is, and it's Maggie's Organics, by the way, so I want to be sure everybody knows the name of your brand.
Thank you.
Is that you were fair trade and organic well before these terms were even known, because I think you created your products back in 1992, as you were mentioning, the 90s.
Yep.
Talk about why fair trade and why organic are so important to you.
Sure. Well, organic is really about the sustainability and the healing of the earth. And people asked me for years, well, you know, I get organic food because it goes into my body, but what's cotton? Why would I care? I can't eat it. And my response to that is, well, you know, cotton, think about the sheets you sleep on. Think about the underclothes you wear. Think about even leggings and jeans and shirts that you wear 12, 15, 18 hours a day sometimes. And you go through different temperatures and different humidity. And so it's all really, we don't promote our clothes as being better for your health, but we certainly sell to a lot of chemically sensitive people who have made all sorts of testimonials to us about how their skin conditions have cleared up and how much better their kids are sleeping now that they're, you know, using organics. So this but to me, really, sustainability is about the future of the planet and leaving it in really good shape for our children and our children's children. But the whole fair trade thing, I really fell into because we started making T-shirts when we went from socks to T-shirts because we found out that the average T-shirt in America, just a basic unisex T-shirt that we all have too many of, it uses about a half a pound of cotton, but it takes about a third of a pound of chemicals to make that same shirt. So my eyes lit up, and it was like, wow, for every 2,000 shirts I sell T-shirts, I can convert another acre of cotton from conventional to organic. So I started selling all these T-shirts, and T-shirts are very time sensitive. You have to get the order on time because it's usually a run or an event or a rock concert tour or something like that. We did all the shirts for Ben & Jerry's ice cream. They had a very short season. So I started having all these problems with production, and all my contracts were in the United States, and I controlled all the, cotton out of the field, and I ginned it myself and spinned it myself and all that stuff. So I would deliver fabric to these sew shops in Alabama and Tennessee, and they'd have maybe 40% capacity because contracts, the U.S. apparel industry was already in distress. It was going to Mexico. It was about, everyone knows what happened with the U.S. apparel industry. Mills were closing on every corner. So I started having two main problems that every apparel company I've ever talked to has, and that's late orders and poor quality. And so here I was sourcing my own fabric, going into these plants that were under capacity and saying, can you make me this most basic garment? It's a T-shirt, right? And always they'd be like, yeah, two weeks, I can get you 12,000 T-shirts, whatever. And then 3 weeks would come and 4 weeks would come and I wouldn't get the order. And when I did get the order, there'd be all sorts of problems with production, just like skip stitches and, uneven hems and just remarkable bad quality. And that's when I found out the dirty little secret of apparel. And that is that who does the sewing in apparel companies? It's women. 99% of the people in the plants I've ever been in are women. If the men are there, they're moving the heavy equipment and they're handling the cutting. It's undereducated women or uneducated women. So they're single heads of households oftentimes. And so they're feeding their families with this work. And most importantly, they're paid by the piece. So their boss determines how many sleeves they can set in a day, and if they set that many sleeves in a day, they get minimum wage. And then for every sleeve above that of first quality, they get 10 cents or 15 cents. So what happens to people who do the same job, day after day, year after year? They develop carpal tunnel, they develop back problems, neck problems. I mean, it was even in the U.S. It was typical for women to have to retire at age 38 or 40 because their bodies just broke down. They couldn't do it anymore. And when I saw what was really happening in the sew factories, because I was spending more time there because we were having all these late orders and poor quality, and I couldn't figure it out, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't call myself a sustainable company if I can't even sustain the lives of the workers who work there. And that's what got me into fair trade.
You know, it's I think that's a great segue into your business model, because it really is as much about how you do business as it is about what you do as business. You support worker-owned cooperatives for your cotton supply. You've taken a very unconventional approach to your channels of distribution. I think you sell your socks even to the natural food market. And, you know, I think your social consciousness is really acute, and you just gave some wonderful examples of that. You know, I want to shift a little bit now to your products. And I'd like to start with, how did you choose the name Maggie for your organics?
So there's no really good story there. I had a partner when we first started. Her name was Jennifer, and my name's Bena. We argued about just about everything. And she said to me early on, when we'd already bought all the cotton, so we had $200,000 invested and we had no product. And then we had this complicated supply chain, so we were kind of like just freaking out a little bit, like, oh my gosh, we spent all this money. How are we going to bring this to market? So we quickly came up with socks because it was like, okay, they don't need a fitting room, and there's only two sizes, and da-da-da. And so we still didn't have a name. And so finally she said, well, you have such a unique name. Why don't we name it after you? And I was like, whoa. No, because my name is a combination of my parents' names, and it's really unique and stuff. And I said, no. What if we mess it up? I really don't want my name tainted for life. So if you're confident, let's name it Jennifer's. And she was like, no, I don't want to go there. So we were like ready to go to a trade show and launch, and we didn't have a name. So finally we just picked Maggie because it was like, well, it's an earthy, crunchy name, you know, Maggie's Farm, Maggie May. Let's just do Maggie. And I remember the very last thing Jennifer sent to me before we went to the show was, we'll just name it Maggie for now. If you don't like it, we can change it. Which is hysterical, because of course you never change a name. So we say now that Maggie has an extension, and she's our complaint department. If there's anything wrong, we'll put you into her voicemail, and she may get back to you, she may not, you know.
There you go.
Yeah.
Who else works with you in the business right now? How many people are involved with getting done what you do with Maggie's Organics?
Sure. So we have 11 employees based in Michigan here, where we do sales and marketing and our warehouse. And then we have a supply chain in the U.S. We make all of our socks in the U.S., where we work with 5 to 7 knitting mills, a couple dyeing mills, a couple other companies. And then we have a whole supply chain in Peru that we've developed from start to finish. So it goes from field to finish. Most of the plants are in Lima. The farmers are down in a valley on the southern Pacific part, and they're all organic cooperative farmers. And then we also are working in India right now, where a lot of organic cotton is being sourced and supply chains. We're working with a factory there. And then we just started working in Burkina Faso with 12,000 farmers. There's 18,000 farmers in this project, and 12,000 of them are women. So that's a super exciting project for us. And then we've started recently, like, I'm from Detroit. You know, my business is located in Dexter, which is maybe an hour and a half outside of Detroit. And I've just started collaborating with a group of designers. Detroit is really undergoing an amazing renaissance. And we started working with a group of designers and larger companies who've come to the table to try to make Detroit a design center and to put in a worker-owned cooperative there to do sewing.
You know, I what you're saying about Detroit is absolutely true. I was there not long after just the whole collapse, and the fact that businesses want to come back to Detroit and make Detroit the proud city it certainly had been is really terrific, and I think it is definitely going through a rejuvenation. I wanted to ask you, what is the best advice you have ever received?
Oh, what a great question. I would say the best advice I've ever received in 25 years of business is just because they're experts necessarily take their advice. For years, you talked about our business model, and it's near and dear to my heart, and it's nothing I feel an ego about. I mean, all I did was solve problems, right? I started this thing. I wanted to just tell the world about cotton, and one thing led to another, and I just tried to make every decision I've ever made from my heart. Because I don't know, because that's how I was raised. But the best advice I ever got. So traditionally, when I was all by myself. I would go down to these plants in Alabama all by myself. I would go to Costa Rica or Nicaragua all by myself. Whatever. And I'd come back and talk to my advisors, whether that was my attorney or my CPA or whatever, and they'd say, "You can't do business like that. You can't prepay the farmers. You can't have that cash flow out. You can't pay your people like that. You can't do this." And I would always say, "Why? Why can't I do this?" And they'd say, "Because it's just not done that way. That's not how you run a business." And so finally, one day, my brother said to me, who's an attorney, said to me, just because they're experts doesn't mean they know more than you do. Like, you've got this this desire to do this way, and so listen to their advice, take it under advisement, and then go with your gut, make your decision. And I think that's how I've run my business, and it's paid off.
So for you, what has been that seminal moment in your life? It's the decision that had the biggest impact on you. What was that moment?
Really, in my business life, that was probably when I went through this for a Ben and Jerry's T-shirt order, and it's a long story, but I found out we were going to be late. This is right when I was trying to save as many acres as possible, and I found out we were going to be late for this order. And Ben and Jerry's was 40% of my sales, and 60% of my sales were T-shirts. And I was like, I can't be late for this order. This is a super important order for these guys. It was actually an order for Fish, the band Fish. They were doing a benefit concert to clean up Lake Champlain, and so it was like this big launch for this fish food ice cream and da-da-da. And it was a huge order for me. It was like 12,000 T-shirts at the time, but it was huge. And the guy who owned the sew shop in Alabama called me and said, "We're not going to make the order in time. You told me to call you ahead. So-and-so's kid has the flu and the seamer broke and this and that." And I was like, no, you can't be late. And so I went down to the plant because I didn't know what else to do. I just drove to Metro Airport. I flew to Knoxville, Tennessee. I drove 3 hours to this guy's plant, and I started like trimming threads and delivering sleeves and trying to make like production faster. And the guy was ready to kick me out. And I just kept saying, "Can I just talk to these women and tell them why I'm here?" And he was like, "No, you can't talk to them. They're my women. You can't talk to them." But the second day, finally, he was threatening to call the police and get me kicked out of his plant. And I just kept saying the same thing. "I can't go here. I can't leave here without my T-shirt. You got to let me talk to these women." So he gave me 10 minutes, and I talked to them all, and I started talking to them about a band named Fish, which to them was like, what is she saying? And organic cotton, and, if you lived in Lake Champlain, if you lived in Vermont next to this lake, Lake Champlain, your kids would swim in the lake, and you would fish in the lake, and the lake's polluted, and these guys are trying to clean up the lake, and I know you can't make the order on time, but you got to help me, blah blah blah. So they did 110% of the order a day and a half early. They sewed more T-shirts than they'd ever sewn, and I listened to them on the phone, literally with thimbles on their fingers, saying things like, "Well, you just have to make a peanut butter sandwich for dinner because I can't come home. I have a lake to save." They didn't say, "My boss is making me work overtime." They didn't say, "This crazy northern woman is screaming about fish who play music." They said, "I have a lake to save." And that was the moment that I was like, oh my gosh, I need to take the people who sew my clothes and connect them to the people who wear my clothes. And if I can just connect those two groups of people, we won't have sweatshops anymore. Like, people will have dignity in their jobs and whatever. And that was really what changed the whole course of the business for me, that moment. I don't know if I explained it right, but
no, I thought that was terrific. Since you were a visionary back in '92, I was curious to know what you see yourself doing 10 years from now and why.
The apparel business or anything?
Anything.
Well, there's certainly this. I think what's going to happen. Number one, I think this Gen Z, like this, the high school kids right now are just wow. I'm just so blown over by what they're going to be able to accomplish in their lives because I feel like they have the same drive and the same ethics and the sense of responsibility to the planet and to other people. It's in their DNA. Like I feel like they have the same drive that we had, but I feel like they're just so much more centered and so much more together. So I'm very optimistic about the future with them alive and on the planet. But what I think is going to happen to the apparel industry is that this whole high-tech 3D world of technical improvements is going to meld, is going to somehow merge with this whole concept that we're trying to do with this Detroit project of taking people who really have never had an opportunity, have never had dignity, have never had an ability to determine their own future, and those two worlds are going to come together. And you know what I've tried to do with our company is level the playing field. I haven't tried. There's a lot of fair trade companies out there that try to, give charity. It's paternalistic. It's oh, you guys do a really good job, and I'm going to give you an extra 5% because I'm going to help you, poor little person. And I think that's completely not the right way to approach this. What we've tried to do with Maggie's is level the playing field. I say to the people at the co-op all the time, if you don't, you're only as good as your last order. So, think about my customer. My customer is a woman who cares that your children ate yesterday as long as her butt doesn't look too big in my dress. That's kind of where it's at. So what we've tried to do is just level the playing field. And I think what's going to happen in the future is that all this technical advancement is going to meld with this sense of everyone deserves a job with dignity. And I think it's going to be miraculous what occurs.
Fantastic. If you had one piece of advice to give to a budding entrepreneur, let's say it's one of those Gen Z people, kids right now, what would it be?
I think it would be every business is about exploitation of resources. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to know that what you're really doing is taking a product or a service and you're exploiting something to get it to a customer. And you got to accept that. It's not going to be perfect. You're always going to have to make compromises. Every day I make compromises. But if you dig really deep inside you whenever you have a decision to make and you make it from that heart perspective, you won't fail. You'll succeed. You'll be, I guess in another word, it's like, don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to be transparent. And sometimes you get, walked on, and I've had suppliers steal my socks and launch them under their own brand. People who I trusted to make my socks, showing up at the magic show and having a line of Amelia's organic socks or whatever organic socks that were exactly my socks. But so it's really hard, but you'll always come to the top if you always make those decisions from your heart. You'll always succeed.
And besides you have you were doing T-shirts, you've done the socks. I think I also read something that you the shawl vest won Best New Fashion Accessory Award.
It did.
If I have this correct, it's at the WFTO's Muhammad Islam Design Award Contest. Talk about that, because I think your inspiration is beyond sort of the U.S. It's I think you're having some global influence.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for recognizing that. We just try to design. So we've always done really basic clothing. You know, we have boot cut pants and we have leggings and all these things. And then 3 years ago, I said, we've never really done a fashion line. So let's do not fashion because I don't believe in planned obsolescence, but let's do a collection of women's clothing. It's mostly knitwear, twice a year, and let's just make it 10 or 12 items and stuff that a 20-year-old can wear and a 70-year-old can wear. Can we really do that? Well, that was the challenge. So we took basic designs, but then put an element of fashion into them. So with this, it was so funny because we almost didn't even enter this design award. It's the World Fair Trade Association or organization, World Fair Trade Organization, that has a conference every 2 years, and they have this design award affiliated with it. It's a lot of European designers, and of course it's all fair trade, and people from Africa, India, China, everywhere. And so we went and we had designed this one-piece shawl vest. It's funny because I have it on right now. That has it's kind of like a big circle with armholes in it, which a lot of people have done. It's one size. It's really drapey, but we added like certain darts to the top and a seam in the middle, and you can wear it upside down or right side up. So I've worn it as an evening coat, like an elegant evening coat with long evening gloves, and I've thrown it on at work over my jeans when I get chilly. So we just entered this design award, and I actually was so sure we weren't going to win the award that I went and had an Ayurvedic spa treatment while the judges were judging, and they announced the winner, and it was us, and I wasn't even there. So it was very, very fun. And the people, it's funny because it was these European designers who were judging mostly, and they said, we didn't even know what it was. There was no sign, there was no, picture. And so then we started playing with it and trying it on, and that's what sold them on it, was that they could wear it upside down, they could wear it right side up, it had pockets in it, whatever. So anyway, yeah, that was very exciting for us.
Bena, I don't know if we're running out of time, but I did want to ask you if there is a person or a company that you admire and why.
Oh my, it's another great. Well, staying apolitical. We just this one person comes to mind right now. This is going to be crazy. We work with companies large and small, but there's a woman who's doing a line of natural hair care for curly-headed people in Ypsilanti, Michigan, which is right outside Ann Arbor. And we just did a little hair towel for her that we've embellished and we actually used some scrap fabric that we had to make her, I don't know, a few thousand of these pieces, and she's launching them as part of her hair care line. And just the whole way she's going about it and the whole way she touches people, I just really admire. I admire, and her company name is Original Moxie, by the way. Her name is Rachel. And I admire so much young or not so young entrepreneurs who are just doing something new and doing something different and really going for it.
Bena Burda, it's been a real pleasure listening to you. Your enthusiasm and what you've done is just inspiring. Your website
thank you
again
so much.
for people?
Sure, it's maggiesorganics.com.
Okay. A link to your website will be on foodandwineinsider.com website tonight. Thank you so much for being with us.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. It was so much fun.
To be successful, most restaurant owners require extra capital from time to time. When you need funding to renovate, buy equipment, or manage cash flow, you don't have time to track down financial statements or wait weeks for a decision. That's where Kabbage can help. Kabbage gives small businesses access to a line of credit of up to $200,000. Apply online and you'll get a decision right away. Since Kabbage is a line of credit, you can take the exact amount you need. You never have to reapply to take additional loans, and you'll only pay for the funds you use. Kabbage has helped more than 230,000 businesses from every industry. And with $4 billion in funding, Kabbage is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and was named the Forbes Top 100 Companies twice in a row. Check out Kabbage at kabbagewithak.com/food and wine and you'll get a $50 gift card when you qualify. That's KABBAGE.com/food and wine. Line of credit is subject to credit approval. See terms and conditions.
Dan Perkins here from Recalculating.biz. I want to tell you about Bob Bethel. Bob's new book is Strengthen Your Business, Fail-Proof Strategies for Small Business. His suggestions are easy to understand and very helpful. Bob Bethel's book, Strengthen Your Business, can be found at Amazon.com or can be ordered at your local bookstore. Dan Perkins with your featured book.
You are listening to Ann Daw and Don Mazzella, and the program is Food and Wine Insider. If you have a question or know someone you think our listeners should hear, contact us at foodandwineinsider.com. Remember, our programs are heard every Wednesday and Saturday on this station via amfm247.com or on iHeartRadio, as well as Roku Television. You can listen to past shows at foodandwineinsider.com.
And with Easter so close and colored eggs so much a part of the decor, I thought talking with Karen Edwards, who's the PR and marketing for Echo Eggs, would be fun. I'm going to start by asking Karen, first, welcome to the program, but tell us what Echo Eggs is, and then Ann is going to take it from there.
Eco eggs are 100% renewable plant-based Easter eggs. So they are a plant-based plastic. It's made out of plants that are grown in the Midwest, and we manufacture them in the United States. If you put them in industrial compost, they'll be gone in about 6 or 7 months. If you want to keep them and use them year after year, you can do that as well.
And I'll leave the rest all up to you.
Thank you. And Karen, welcome again to Food and Wine Insider. And I'm very excited to be talking about your eco eggs. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the inspiration for them from Christine Latinen, who actually, I guess, created the product and your involvement in the business.
Sure. Christine is the president of Mod Borup, which is our parent company. And she's also the president of Eco Eggs. But how it started was Mod Borup is a candy, confections, and food gift company based in the Midwest. It's actually a 111-year-old company. And when it started in 1907, it was started by a woman named Mod Borup. And it was really unusual at that time for a woman to own a company because women didn't even have the right to vote at that time. And so she started the company selling candies in a floral shop, and then it got so big that she started opening stores throughout the Midwest. So Christine purchased the Mod Borup brand, and what we were doing then was, instead of selling in stores direct to consumers, Christine changed the model of the company to instead of direct to consumer, it was to wholesale or to business. So it was a business to business. So to get that exponential growth that she had envisioned, that's the path that she chose, which was rather dramatic because it involved closing down the stores that were direct to consumer that people were so used to throughout the Midwest. But since that time, we have been able to get that exponential growth, and we've been able to get customers like Target, Walmart, Aldi, Cost Plus World Market, very large, recognizable worldwide companies that buy our candy, confections, and food gifts. And we were in a meeting with one of our Mod Borup customers who had asked for an Easter egg that was made in the USA and ideally eco-friendly. So we literally searched the world looking for one to fill that requirement. And when we didn't find it, Christine said, I'm going to develop one. And so she developed the Eco Egg. 2011 was the first time it was released.
Terrific. You know, I don't think most consumers ever think about where their plastic eggs come from. But I guess they're no longer made in the U.S. That was a little bit of a surprise to me as well. Why go through the trouble of making a compostable plastic egg?
Well, Most of the eggs are made in China, and they make them with petroleum. And petroleum and the way they process it with other chemicals is harmful to the planet, and it's also harmful to children. And it can have different chemicals that leach into the food and the candy that we're putting in the kids' Easter eggs. And so it was really important to come up with something that was friendly to the planet, healthy for kids, and just really kind of carry on with our sustainable mission, because as a company, one of our goals is to be the most sustainable company on the planet. And we have taken numerous steps to do that, and we're heated by geothermal heat. We put up a 100-foot wind turbine to power our plant and also sell the excess power, the excess clean energy to local communities. We have a list of 33 things that we do every day to be more sustainable, recycling, upcycling, and reusing everything possible, including boxes and packaging that we get in. If it's reusable, we reuse it. We try to minimize using anything that we have to call on new resources for. In our office, our tabletops, our desktops, our counters are all made out of recycled material. Our light fixtures are all made out of recycled material. Our gardening is all done with water that's been collected from the rain to do landscaping. So it's those kind of things that were really important to us. So we not only make the eco-friendly egg, but we also live and work that lifestyle.
Yes, it's very clear in terms of what you've done to really be environmentally friendly and really care for the planet. And it's very, very admirable how you've done so. What were the biggest challenges, therefore, faced in developing and commercializing these eggs?
Oh, there were a number of them, Anne. And it's funny because when you think about a plastic egg, you say, what's the big deal? It's a plastic egg. But there's a lot of things to it. And when you're working with this plant-based material, it is not like regular plastic. So it doesn't pour the same. The whole molding process is completely different. And those were challenges. One of the big challenges, though, quite frankly, is pricing. Because when you can get, 100 eggs for a couple dollars from China, that's not the case when you're dealing with an eco-friendly egg that's made in the United States. And the cost is a little bit higher than a China-made egg. And so you really have to believe in the mission and, the purpose of doing something eco-friendly to want to, pay the extra for an eco egg versus a China-made egg. It's much like people who shop at organic markets. Well, I can get meat and vegetables anywhere, but why do I go to that organic market? Because I care about those things and I'm willing to pay a little bit more. And that's exactly the same with eco eggs. You have to be one of those people who believe in that.
So Karen, if I think about the typical plastic egg that's bought versus the eco egg, what is the price difference? What should the consumer expect for something that is environmentally friendly, that is eco sensitive?
Yeah, so the price will vary based on the packaging and the quantities that are purchased and the size eggs. They come in two different sizes. So people can go to our website, which is ecoeggs.com, and you can see the different pricing options that are available. So I would encourage people to go there and check it out. And to bring up, though, about the eggs, which I forgot to mention, they are non-toxic and they're durable. But the other thing that we did, was we made a secure snapping closure. And the reason we did that was when we were doing our research, very large egg hunts were telling us that animals were actually getting in to the eggs just simply by tapping them, and they'd break open and then the candy or the treat would come out, and then they'd have hundreds or even thousands of eggs open without any treats in them before the kids came for the egg hunt. So with our secure snap enclosure, you have to depress it on both sides and it'll pop, and then it kind of snaps shut where you can hear it seal. And from that, which we thought was great for the egg hunt standpoint, but what we also found out year-round there's uses for eco eggs. And so many people call us and tell us the things that they do with eco eggs. And some of them are, schools use them a lot as learning tools for kids, where they're matching numbers to pictures and putting the eggs together. Special education classes, especially like with autistic children who have sensory needs, they may put something inside the egg, like a rubber ball, and allow the student to shake it or just have that sense of something moving in their hand that they need. And it's really nice because it doesn't just fall apart like a China-made egg, and it is opaque, so you don't see through it like you do in a China-made egg. A lot of arts and crafts are made with eco eggs, and also food containers. So moms use them because they can put a portion-controlled snack inside. They can put different color eggs on the table when the kids come home from school or in their lunchbox. We have Girl Scouts that every year make Rice Krispie treats, and they use them as molds. And the reason they use eco eggs is because if you use a traditional plastic egg that's with petroleum, as soon as something hot hits that, it starts to release the chemicals and things that can leach into the food, where with eco eggs, there is nothing to leach into the food. So it's completely safe.
So indeed, it's not just for Easter, which I think makes it much more, certainly more interesting and more usable and new different ways of thinking about an egg. I think I also read that your eggs are actually quite a bit larger than the standard plastic egg. I think they're 3 inches by 2 1/4 inches. What I'm curious to hear about, you know, it is compostable, but if you're hiding eco eggs in the environment, it doesn't break down, is what I'm assuming, when you're, you know, when you want the kids to be doing their hunts. Is that correct?
Well, what happens is in a compost, one of the main components is heat, right? So that's what causes the eggs to break down, along with everything else, all the other interactions that happen in composting. If you just have them outdoors, they will start to break down over time. It just takes longer, because I actually had an egg that rolled underneath the seat of my car, and it went through the summer. And in the fall, I was cleaning out my car, and I pulled out the egg and saw that it was actually starting to bend and twist and crack and break down. So the process does start happening, you know, just at a different pace. It won't happen as fast.
And so if you want to use the eco eggs over and over again, how do you need to store them?
That you store them in a cool place or something that's climate controlled. So if you live in Florida or Arizona, you don't want to store them up in your attic, because that will start the composting process. So if you have them at a climate controlled, you know, that's comfortable for you, then the eggs are perfectly fine. And, you know, the other question we get asked a lot, Anne, is because they are plant-based, can they be put in water and will they just dissolve? And the answer is they can be put in water and they will not dissolve in water. So we have a number of egg hunts from scuba diving clubs that will weight the eggs and then throw them in water, and they'll scuba dive and do hunts. And they're perfectly fine in the water. And then to complement eco eggs, we wanted to really provide a solution to parents. So we created eco grass also. And eco grass is 100% recycled, 100% recyclable crinkle cut grass that comes in 3 different colors, very vibrant colors. And the dye that we use is a water-based. So again, very safe. There's no chemicals in that. We put it through a very clean process so that there's nothing on the paper that's going to stick to your kids' jelly beans and chocolate. If you ever look at China-made grass, it almost looks like there's a gray soot or like a powdery substance over the grass. And so if you run your hand across that grass, you get some of that gray onto your hands. Well, that sticks to all the kids' candy. And what that is, it's things that are coming off of the shredding machines in China, little powdery stuff. So you don't want that on your grass. So after we put it through the clean process, we pack it in bags that has a resealable top, so that should you not want to recycle it but use it year after year, then you can put it back in its clean bag and then just reseal it, store it away, and then use it the following year. We also have filled eggs if people want candy in eggs. For egg hunts, we can fill the eggs with traditional candies that you might think of, but we also fill the eggs with organic and natural candies, as well as trinkets and stickers and things like that. You mentioned the size of the egg. The initial egg that we came out with was the 3-inch egg, 3 inches by 2¼ inches. And what was really nice about that is you didn't have to put just candy in there. Now it's really nice to make surprise eggs and put different trinkets and things in there that the kids find fun. And after coming out with that for a number of years, people said to us, what about a less expensive, smaller egg, maybe not quite as, durable, where I could just compost it really quickly. I don't want to keep it year after year. I just kind of want to compost it. So we created the smaller egg, which is about the size of an extra large chicken egg, just like your standard Easter egg would be. And so those are really nice. And both of them come in the same 5 colors. So now you have a choice of getting your standard size egg or that large egg. And what we're finding is a lot more moms want a balance between giving the kids candy and then maybe giving them some toys and things like that in the larger egg.
Sure. My kids expect money in those eggs, so.
There you go. Always a good answer.
How big is the business today, and where can one find the eco eggs?
Yeah, the business has really grown a lot, and that's why we keep adding products to the product line, and that's our goal, to keep coming up with eco-friendly solutions for Easter and beyond. The products are available around the country in brick and mortar stores, but they're also available online. So there are, and if you look at a lot of natural food co-ops, children's specialty stores, that's where most of eco eggs can be found. So, there's large chains like Mom's Organic Grocery Store, and then PCC Natural Grocers on the West Coast. We are also in some Whole Foods. Online, you can find them and also in the Magic Cabin catalog and online.
Right.
So there really are a number of different stores. And what we suggest is, if you are in an area and you don't know where to go or you can't find them, to just contact us, and the number is on the website, and we can tell you specifically if there's someone right in your area or if there's someone who can ship them to you close by.
So proportionately, are you selling more in stores or are you selling online? And where do you think you're going to be getting your growth from?
We actually sell on our website, but we sell by the case, and not everybody wants to buy by the case. So that gives you the option to either buy from us in larger quantities, or we have a lot of, the retailers and the online that really have been a mainstay for us, and we see that really as the avenue for growing. And it just continues to grow, the number of retailers, and both online and brick and mortar, that continue to sell these and really have grown organically that way.
Okay. But proportionately, is it 50-50? Do you find, you're selling more in-store versus online? I think it'd just be curious for our audience to know.
Boy, that's a hard question, because we sell online. We sell a lot of egg hunts, whereas the stores don't. They're selling more the packaged direct. So it's sort of I guess it's
They're a
sort
little
of
bit different, you're saying.
Yeah. It is a little bit different market, so it's kind of hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, online, just like anything else, is just picking up momentum all the time with online sales.
So, what are the proudest accomplishments for the business and for you and for Christine?
I think some of the proudest accomplishments really is staying true to our mission of being a sustainable company and being able to not just say the words like a lot of companies, but actually live it and work it is a huge accomplishment. Being able to do something for the environment that matters, and just helping people who never thought about it, or now that they know that it's out there, being able to help keep the kids safe and making sure their candy is clean and things like that. Those are really important to us. Also, being able to take a company that was in its infancy when Christine purchased it and seeing over the last 12 or 13 years how much it's actually grown, and really growing because we're listening. We listen to the people, the consumers, our clients, the retailers, and listening to what they want and then meeting that need, where we do a lot of custom work with both our parent company and with Mod Burda and also with Eco Eggs. And I think that's really been rewarding for us to talk to retailers, find out what they want for their customer, and then develop it for them. And there's not a lot of avenues to have that, happen. The other thing where we've seen a lot of growth from the parent company side is that we have the rights to produce food gift items under the Peanuts brand, Thomas Kincaid, and Hell's Kitchen. So securing those globally known licenses have been a very big accomplishment for us and have opened a lot of doors into different sales avenues, not only for the Mod Burda candy and food gifts, but also for Eco Eggs.
Okay. You're also a WeBank company, which is a women business enterprise corporation. Could you talk a little bit about what that is and what it means to you and for other women in the food industry?
Yeah, that is a group focused on women business owners, and it's really rewarding to get together with them and to just listen to some of the struggles that they have and some of the things that they've learned, and how everyone is so open in sharing information and helping each other be successful. It's really nice to come together and talk about, the challenges of business, but more so a woman-owned business. And in our case, I don't believe I mentioned that we are a woman-owned and a veteran-owned business, but of our employees, 96% of our employees are women also. So we're very woman focused.
As you think about other companies, which ones do you admire and why?
Oh my goodness. That's a hard question. I can't think of it right off the top of my head because there are so many. And I think,
Okay, and we've just about run out of time. So at this point, I think we should thank Karen Edwards of Eco Eggs for being with us today. Your website again, Karen?
It's ecoeggs.com, ECOEGGS.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Ann, do you think it's harder or easier nowadays to get into the food and wine business?
I think that's a great question, Don. I think there are still fairly low barriers to entry into the food business. Part of the reason for this is there continues to be excess capacity. In other words, in most cases, you can find a contract packer to produce your product. Of course, this might not give you a great deal of flexibility in the type of packaging you may want to use, but most specialty producers use co-packers so that they aren't consumed with trying to make the product, but instead can focus on selling the product to retailers or to food service buyers. Of course, you still need money, and most entrepreneurs would admit that they have fully borrowed from friends and family. Today, however, there are so many other ways to raise capital. There's GoFundMe, there's crowdsourcing, there's angel investors, and this gives new entrepreneurs every chance to get their products to market. The important thing to me, however, is not to lose sight of the differentiation of the product in the marketplace and its relevance to your particular target audience. What is your unique selling proposition? What will consumers use your product instead of? Why will they believe your product fits into their life? Have you paid attention to sustainability? Do you support a greater good? Today, consumers want it all. Great taste, by the way, nothing else matters, convenience, a clean ingredient line, a real person behind the product, and a sense that you are providing them something they cannot get anywhere else. Experiment in as many channels as possible. Get the repeat orders coming and stay passionate about what you're doing. Oh, and be sure to make some money at it, because if you're ever thinking about selling the business, that's one of the important questions. Not only your passion, but can you make money in the business? Thanks, Don.
Thank you, Ann. Very insightful.
I thought I'd talk today about family-owned businesses. I've had the pleasure to get to know so many wonderful families who started businesses. Sometimes it's a mom who was inspired to create a new product for a specific dietary need of her child. Sometimes it's a husband and wife working shoulder to shoulder to make their dreams come true. One thing is always present, a passion for what they are creating and how it changes the way the world eats. Passion gets them into creating a business. And then there are the practical realities of having a successful business. The consumer also appreciates the entrepreneurs as they look to delight their own eating experiences with not only what is in the product, demanding a clean ingredient line, but also the original story and the real person behind the product. Many food entrepreneurs start out by using their savings and borrowing from family and friends. In the current world of GoFundMe, Kickstarter, and the like, they've been able to broaden their reach in terms of support. They may have tested their products in farmers markets to see if there's appeal beyond their immediate family and friends. Then if they are fortunate enough, they get to a level of scale, having built relationships with retailers or food service buyers, distributors, and expanding beyond direct selling to using brokers. They are attending trade shows that help them connect with buyers interested in their products. Many start out co-packing their products to minimize their risk. This is a smart thing to do, but this requires relationship building and determining the right point at which to self-manufacture, especially as distribution expands beyond a regional area. At some point in gaining scale, they may need to infuse significant capital into the business to expand distribution and manufacturing. This may involve a different kind of partner, maybe angel investors, and quite possibly venture capital or even private equity. Today, even the large CPG companies like Campbell's, General Mills, Kellogg's, and Danone have created venture capital funds to find these innovative jewels. In talking with these entrepreneurs, it's sometimes difficult to accept an investment from a private equity or a venture capital group, given the concern that they could lose control or have to run the business according to someone else's direction. This is certainly understandable, as many of these entrepreneurs have a DNA that thrives on being their own bosses and making their own decisions. Instead, I would suggest understanding the role that these companies can bring to bear who now feel as passionately as you do about your business. After all, why would they want to invest in you? As one Shark Tank shark once said to me, there are two questions I ask of entrepreneurs in considering investing in their business. One, are you passionate about this business for the long term? And two, are you making money at it? And while we may discuss this for another day, at some point, entrepreneurs need to consider a succession plan for the business, especially if children are not interested in continuing the story. Even if the next generation is involved, there are many instances in which the company quite wisely brings in an outside CEO who brings additional competencies and vision to the business. Again, something to talk about in another session. Thank you.
You've been listening to Food and Wine Insider with Ann Daw and Don Mazzella. Want to join us on a future show? Contact us at foodandwineinsider.com. Until next time, have a passion for food, wine, and profits, and think of our program, Food and Wine Insider.